All right, well, he cruised to a second term as mayor of Toronto with the biggest win since the city was amalgamated 20 years ago. And fresh off his victory last night, we're joined this morning by Mayor John Tory. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, let's get right to it. One of the keys of Jennifer Keesmaat's platform, who was your opponent, was 100,000 affordable housing units in the city of Toronto. We know that we are hitting crisis mode with affordable housing in the city. You called that plan doomed to failure, but you also said that you will be taking into consideration some of the things that she put forward. So what will you be doing in your second term to make housing more affordable for those who need it?
Well, I got the message loud and clear. We've got to ramp it up, and we've got to create a lot more affordable rental units. We've seen this happen in Vancouver, and Toronto has an affordability issue, no question. But I also want to be realistic about it. I mean, there is no point in promising people, goals that are just not achievable. So we'll sit down. We've got a goal that I set with the city staff of 40,000 units over the next number of years. And I think the key is to get on with it. Put up the city land, make the incentives available to make sure the private sector builds that affordable rental housing because we need it. The supply is below what it should be. And like a number of other Canadian cities, we've got to get on with it. And that's what I'm pledged to do, get on with it.
One of those key things that goes with affordable housing is often affordable transit. People in Scarborough still waiting for good access into the downtown core. And it's easier, we know, to live outside of the city. But if there's not good transit to get in, that ties into part of that sort of poverty cycle that keep people stuck.
There is no question. People, when they're not connected to opportunity and they can't get around, this is damaging in many respects to the sort of social and economic fabric of any city, including Toronto. And so we have a transit plan. And so I believe now I have a sweeping mandate from across the city to move forward with it. And there are people who want to change it and they want to alter it and they want to pull in this and put out that. And I'm just saying, no, we have a plan. It's been approved. The voters overwhelmingly sent me back to office and I ran expressly on that plan. And now I'll look forward to implementing it. And it's just this Canadian thing we do where we sort of have plans and then redraw them and reconsider them and restudy them. And the people have said, no, build it.
We'll have to wait and see if that does get built. Another thing I want to ask you about is your relationship with Premier Ford. You were past political adversaries for this office of mayor. You won that battle. Premier Ford, however, won the fight for a smaller city council. You'll be going back to less seats in the room. He claims he's partly elected to fix the city. You clearly have the support of the people of Toronto. So how do you carry out your vision while dealing with a premier who says he has his own vision for the city of Toronto?
You find the common ground. And I
what
suspect,
is your common ground?
I think the common ground is on exactly the things we talked about. I think Mr. Ford wants to make sure that Toronto is prosperous. And as much as I know people across the country don't like to hear it, Toronto is the economic engine of Ontario and Canada. And so Mr. Ford's very determined to make sure that Toronto is prosperous and does well for the sake of Ontario and Canada, I'm sure. And he also knows, though, that the key to that prosperity is building transit, addressing affordable housing so people from all income groups can live here. So I think that if we find the common ground and don't focus on whatever the differences are, I mean, I'll stand up for Toronto anytime I have to. But at the end of the day, I'm really more about trying to find that common ground. And I think we will do it on transit, on housing, on community safety. And that's, I think, when you can get some things done.
Well, you hadn't agreed on transit in the past, so it'll be interesting to see if you can find common ground of that going forward in the future. I want to give people a sense across the country of voter breakdown in the city of Toronto because it does play into the story of election night. You took home 63.5% of the vote. Jennifer Keesmaat won 23.6%. But controversial candidate Faith Goldy, who has been described by media watchdog Right Wing Watch as a white nationalist, she won 3.4%. She technically came in third. So what does that tell you about growing support for a far-right views and vision in this city?
That she got 3.4% of the vote. And you know what? I've just said last night again, because I thought it was important to say it in light of the fact that she was a candidate at all. And look, it's a free country and people can run. That we've got to stand up every time people like this raise their head, or anywhere in this country, but in Toronto, especially the most diverse city in the world, and say no to that kind of divisive, polarizing view. And so she got 3.4% of the vote. I'm surprised at that, but that's only 3.4%.
Mayor Tory, thank you.
Thanks, Henry.